Well, this is John Black, Super Chemist, and we're here to show you how and we're going to use the Bible itself. As you can see, the King James Version, that's the common version that Christians use. And we're going to prove that they not only, think human sacrifice is okay, they think it's actually moral. And not only that, their entire basis, the foundation of the religion is based on human sacrifice. I mean, it's undeniable, but of course everyone will deny it. Let's start with Judges chapter 11, and we're going to scroll down to verse 29. Okay, you can read it if you want. The stuff that comes before that, it's basically just God talking to Jephthah, and and I'm going back and forth or whatever. I don't even remember what but it's all inconsequential. The story really starts right here. It says at verse 29, and keep in mind this only goes, so let's say 30 to 40. That's like 10, 11. That's 11 verses, and each verse is only on average, one verse is one sentence. So that means this entire story is only 11 sentences long, okay? And keep in mind, nobody disagrees with me. Not the church, not the Pope, not in the colleges where they teach theology, like if you want to be a pastor, you might go, or if you're a priest, you have to go. Nobody disagrees that this is about human sacrifice. They just manipulate it and turn it into something else, that, the moral of the story. But nobody on the planet disagrees that this is a story about human sacrifice. Okay? Nobody. The Pope himself, even. Pastors, Christians, no one, because it's so small of a story, you cannot interpret it any other way. Okay? So we're going to go over each sentence and whatever, and we're going to see. So 29. Then the Spirit of the Lord came up to Jephthah. And this is the only part of the sentence that's really worth mentioning, is that the Lord came up upon Jephthah, meaning that he's right there with Jephthah. And he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpeh and Gilead, and from Mizpeh of Gilead he passed over unto the children of Ammon. And so the rest of that was just garbage. He's just basically saying that he passed through these cities, the Lord, and then he came upon Jephthah, right? That's all it says. Verse 30, and Jephthah vowed. Okay, now God basically walked up to Jephthah, and Jephthah starts talking to God, and Jephthah vowed a vow unto the Lord, and said, if you shalt that was the whole thing. They were talking about these Ammon people before this verse 29. They're bad, and Jephthah wants to get rid of them. You know what I mean? They're going to war. And Jephthah vowed a vow unto the Lord, and said, if thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, meaning if you let me win this war, right? Because that's what they're talking about in this chapter. The whole thing is about this war. Then verse 31, Jephthah says, if I vow, if you let me beat up the Ammonites in this war, then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, meaning I just beat them up and now we have peace, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering. No one can deny what a burnt offering is. Everyone knows what a burnt offering is in the Bible. It means that you're going to burn something that's alive. An animal, a person, a slave, whatever. So basically, the first 3 verses just says God came up to Jephthah, and Jephthah said, hey man, I promise you, if you let me win this war, I vow that whoever comes out of, I come home from the war after winning and we have peace, whoever comes out to, greet me through my front door, when I come home, then I will offer that animal up, whether it be a human or whatever, a goat, dog, it doesn't matter. He doesn't specify. It doesn't matter what it is, I will offer it up for a burnt offering. So Jephthah, this is verse 32, so Jephthah passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands. Now, keep in mind, this is the Bible. That means it's God's word. This isn't Jephthah's word, okay? This is God's word, in the frame of a reference from a Christian. This is God's word, okay? And God said that He delivered them into his hands. So Jephthah didn't just win because he was mightier. No, the Lord delivered them into his hands. Okay? In the next verse, and he smote them from Aaron or even till thou come to Minnith, even 20 cities, and unto the plain of the vineyards with a very great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. Keep in mind, Jephthah is the children of Israel, right? He's saying the Lord delivered them into his hands, and he smote them. He killed them all through this city, that city, all through these cities, through the vineyards, and with a great slaughter. And then that subdued the rest of the Ammon children, that were left that were still alive. So let's go to verse 34. And Jephthah came to Mizpeh, right? That's his house. Unto his house. I mean, that's the city that he lives in. And behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances. And she was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. So most of this is just babbling. The only thing that you need to take from that is Jephthah came home, right, to his house, and what did he see? The first person that came out of the front door was his daughter. That's basically the takeaway, right? Now, he's already made a vow. There's only one vow that he's made, and there's only one time that he talked to God in this entire chapter. So we know what that vow is, right? And it came to pass when he saw her that he rent his clothes, meaning grabbed on him, tried to rip them off, and said, Alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low, and thou art one of them that trouble me. For I have opened my mouth unto the Lord, and I cannot go back. I can't go back on what I said. I gave a vow. I can't go back on it. It's making me sad. It's bringing me down, right? I'm ripping up my clothes. Alas, my daughter, this is making me, sad. I can't go back on my vow. Now, verse 36. And she said unto him, My father, if thou hast opened thy mouth unto the Lord, do to me according to that which hath proceeded out of thy mouth. So she's saying, if you made a vow, then you got to keep that vow, man. For as much as the Lord hath taken vengeance for thee of thine enemies, even of the children of Ammon. So basically, she's just saying, you got to do what you're going to do, man. I mean, he let you win the war, and so you got to keep your vow. 37. And she said unto her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down upon the mountains and bewail my virginity, I and my followers. So she's basically saying, hey, you're going to kill me. Let me give 2 months to, travel around the mountains, go up and down with my friends and hang out. I'm a virgin. Let me mourn my virginity and my life that's going to be forfeited. And of course, verse 38, and he said, Jephthah the dad said, Go, and he sent her away for 2 months, and she went with her companions and bewailed her virginity upon the mountains. So she goes up for 2 months and she, mourns her virginity and her life. And then there's only 2 more verses. 39. And it came to pass at the end of the 2 months that she returned unto her father, who did with her according to his vow which he had vowed. And she knew no man, and it was a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went yearly to lament the daughter of Jephthah, the Gilead, 4 days in a year. Okay, so basically the last part is just saying they celebrate it, or mourn it every year for 4 days. But the first part I want you to see. And it came to pass at the end of the 2 months that she returned unto her father. That's obviously, self-explanatory. She, at the end of the 2 months, she came home, right? And the father did with her to his vow, which he had vowed. There was only one vow, right? There was only one vow. And that was to offer up the person or animal that came out to greet him after he won the war. Only if God helped. And it said that God helped. No one can say that this is not a story about human sacrifice. Okay, so first let's go over a couple things, go back over the story and make things more clear. Verse 29 is where we started, okay? And it says, that's when the Spirit of the Lord came to Jephthah. Meaning that the Lord wasn't there. If you read the first 28 verses, you'll see it's just Jephthah talking to the Ammonites, and them going back and forth saying how they're doing each other wrong, you know what I mean? And then, so there's no, my whole point is if God just entered the story, then how could Jephthah make a vow before that? And if you read the passages, he made no vow. There was no vow, none. Second thing I wanted to bring up was verse 34, when Jephthah came home, right? It says, Jephthah came home, right, unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him. Now, that right there proves that she wasn't just outside, right? Because it says his daughter came out to meet him. Okay, he comes up to the house, and his daughter comes out. That means that the daughter was in the house and came out, and she had to come out through the front door. This was back in the day. There was only one door, and it's in the front. If they had one in the back, how would he know that she came out that door? How would he see? Obviously, she came out the front door. Obviously. There's no other interpretation. Because it says, behold, his daughter came out to meet him. Came out of where then? If she didn't come out of the house, where'd she come from? The dictator or the king's version of God's word says that women are, worthless, and their virginity and ability to procreate is the only thing that gives them value. You know what I mean? Gives a woman value. That's the king's dictator's version of what God said. You know what I mean? So that's why when that story gets down to the end where she's saying, I went to the hills to mourn my virginity, that was everything back then. You know what I mean? Was your virginity and having kids. And what she's doing is she's mourning her unborn children, right? Over herself, because she's not a piece of crap, right? Just like let's say I'm 20 years old and I got 2 kids and they're both babies, right? And now I find out I have to be killed, right? Human sacrifice. So I say I want to go take 2 months off and just mourn, about my children. And my children are going to grow up with no parent or whatever. I'm going to go up and I'm going to mourn them. That doesn't mean I'm not mourning my life. That's how you mourn your life, right? That's how you think about what you could have had. That's how you mourn your life, literally. So when she's saying I'm going in to mourn because I'm a virgin, what she's saying is that I'm mourning the fact that I'm going to die, and yet I'll never have a family. I'll never experience this stuff. That's why I don't want to die, but I have to, because God let my dad win this war. And some people will say that he didn't make this promise to do this burnt offering. It was called. He said, "I vow this vow to do this burnt offering." Right? Whoever comes out to meet me after the war. You let me win.